To speak more about this, we are joined in by SUHAS Chakma, who's Director, Rights and Risk Analysis Group. SUHAS, the big question that is being asked over here is this: is Yunus failing the minorities of Bangladesh?
Well, surely he is failing the minorities. He has not taken appropriate actions against violence on the minorities. From the time he came in, he tried to shift, the responsibility to the political violence. And in fact, when the attacks immediately after Hasina had fallen, we reported and he was asked about those incidents. Then he had stated that these attacks were because of the allegiance of the Hindus with the Awami League, but there was no investigation, there was no registration of FIR. So it remains a mystery. How could somebody like Dr. Yunus, who is a Nobel laureate, could reach the conclusion that people were attacked because of their political allegiance with the Awami League? So with that statement of Dr. Yunus, I think people in the country, the radical elements, the fundamentalists, which are the overwhelming majority, got the message that they can actually get away with anything because it's at the end of the day the Awami League versus the rest of the country. And I fear actually, I fear that there will be more violence on the Hindus when the election processes start. Because at this point of time, the international spotlight is on Bangladesh, whether Hindus and their Durga Puja celebrations are attacked and etc. So therefore, there is a beefed up security which everyone in the administrations is trying to do. But that particular approach will not be prevalent once the election processes start. And at that point of time, saying these are the Awami League leaders, they will be attacked. It will be very difficult for the Hindus to stay there. And basically, Dr. Yunus has provided a template to attack the minorities in the country.
So the question is, who is actually being in power in the back? And for example, is Yunus just the smokescreen of a much harder agenda that is at play?
Well, I think, before Yunus took over power, international community did not know what is the personality or what's the worldview of Dr. Yunus. So everybody was smitten by the fact that he's a Nobel laureate. He got the Nobel Prize for Peace. People had forgotten two things. One, that as a banker, he survived on collecting interest from the poor people. And in India, we all know how EMIs are collected. It's another thing, certain people we have benefited, but once he got the Nobel Prize, then all the dark records which he had was written off. Second, people did not know what were his views on governance, democracy, and inclusiveness. And if you look at today, Dr. Yunus comes out somebody who is not liberal at all. He's absolutely illiberal. And the best way to look at it is the formation of this Constitutional Reform Commission. Out of 9 members, there is only 1 woman, which is actually violative of the Jatiya Sanshad Representation Act of 2004, which reserves certain amount of seats for the women in the parliament. So that spirit was violated. Secondly, there is no Hindu or indigenous people's representative in that committee. So he basically has made it clear that in the entire reform process, there is no scope whatsoever for the religious minorities to contribute to the process. So when you exclude the religious minorities from the process, then you send a message that religious minorities cannot stay. So if you look at the formation of his cabinet, except one Chakma, the representation of the minorities is very, very low. Then in the committees, different kind of 6 committees which he has formed, there is no representation from either the indigenous tribal communities or the Hindu minorities. And he is actually, in my view, the smoke screen for the Jamaat Islami, because the students who are advising him belong to Islamic Chhatra Shibir at Dhaka University, who actually come from Chittagong tracks. And his colleagues, or his friends include people like, people who are quite well known for their right of the Jamaat-e-Islami. So you can imagine the kind of worldview he has. And I think international community at this point of time is in deeply shock, in a deep shock that this is what Muhammad Yunus, and I think they are yet to find out more. And as I say, if he organizes the elections in Bangladesh, that would be the worst attack the Hindus had ever seen since 1971.
Well, so the question here is that since Yunus could be just that person who was put in power just to ensure that international attention doesn't fall in the way it's supposed to fall on the hardline elements within the system, because it looks like a coup d'etat by the hardliners within Bangladesh that has been taken. What is going to be the future of the minorities in Bangladesh? Because the question is that if the constitutional reform doesn't represent them, then what is going to represent them? Because that is the constitutional guarantee of your existence that is going to be questioned.
Well, I think the minorities face a very dark future. I think it's an issue which the government of India should take into consideration. I mean, I see whenever the election process starts, massive migration of Hindu minorities, other indigenous and tribal people. And at this point of time, indigenous peoples, because of their physical features of being Tibetan Mongoloid, it's very difficult for them to roam around. So they work in this export processing zones in Chittagong and Dhaka, and they face sporadic violence because they're a small community in a city of, for example, 20 million people. If there are 40,000 indigenous peoples, they are nothing, but they can face systematic attack. And as far as I know, hundreds of people from Chittagong and Dhaka, they're actually moving back to the hill tracts where there are no jobs. Once again, massive human rights violations, which we have seen from 19 September to 1st of October. So they are going back. On the other hand, the Hindus also cannot live inside mainland Bangladesh. And if India does not act decisively, we might see influx of the religious minorities, not because they want to come this side of the border, but if it is an offense for you to have a daughter or to have land, then obviously you will flee. So in that situation, imagine if about out of the 16 million people, 16 lakh people actually cross over to India, whether in whether in West Bengal, Assam, Tripura, then it is going to create local problems, and I think it is going to destabilize India, especially the northeastern India. And that's why before even when he took over as the chief advisor of the caretaker government, which was very undiplomatic, I would say, but Yunus on record had stated, if you destabilize Bangladesh, we are going to destabilize Northeast India. So he knew about these things, and that's why the government of India cannot take this, incidents very lightly. It's very good that they had spoken on the Hindu minorities. I think they should have officially spoken on the attacks which took place from 19 September to 1st of October on the indigenous hill tracts in the Chittagong hill tracts. They should have spoken up about this.